Great, so our learning target today is I can solve equations resulting from proportional relationships. So we're going to start by talking about what are cross products. What are cross products? Cross products is a situation when you have two fractions with an equal sign in the middle. So for example, you have the fraction 2/3 is equal to the fraction 4/6. When that happens, there is a math rule that allows you to multiply the cross factors. So we would go ahead and say, because if 2/3 is equal to 4/6, then we can take this diagonal value of 2 times 6, starting in the upper left-hand corner, running down the diagonal. 2 times 6 is equal to 12. That would be the same as the other diagonal, 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is also equal to 12. So we would say that 2/3 is proportionate to 4/6. Algebraically, then, it doesn't matter what the value A is here. We can multiply it to the value of D and get A times C. If they truly are proportionate, there's an equal sign in the middle, then we can take the value of B and multiply it by the value of C. So we would have A times D equals B times C. So we're going to use that today in our work to find an unknown within the proportion. So everything we have today is going to have 3 numbers and 1 unknown value. So we're going to talk about the steps of how we would find an unknown if we had 2 fractions with an x somewhere in the middle of the fraction. So step 1 today is going to be that we're going to do something called set up a t-table. So everybody should be writing right now, set up a t-table. After we set up that t-table, we are going to take cross products, which is the work that we just did above. We're going to multiply the 2 diagonals, one of which of those will be a variable today. After we take cross products, we're going to do what we call solve using hand method. Now you're familiar with the hand method. We're going to solve for the unknown. And finally, as always, in step 4, we are going to check our work to make sure that it makes sense. Does everything seem legit? So those are our 4 steps for finding an unknown value in a proportion. We're going to use those 4 steps as we work in example 1. Down here in example 1, you see the fraction 3/2. It says that it is equal to the fraction x over 8. Now many people can mental math that and figure out that the x value is 12. But our job today is to show cross products and our proportional work. So the way I would like you to do it is I would like you to start by first of all recognize that it is proportionate, because you have fraction, equal sign, fraction, which makes it proportionate. I want you to grab the variable x, and I want you to start with that diagonal. We're going to go ahead and multiply through that diagonal to the lower left corner. So it's going to become x times 2, or the commutative property allows us to flip that, and it's going to become 2 times x. Because of proportionality in cross products, we're going to say that it is equal to, or the same as, starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have 3 multiplied on that diagonal by 8. So we have 3 times 8. So we're saying because of proportionality, 2 times x is the same as 3 times 8. That becomes 2 times x without that multiplication sign in the middle. In 7th grade, we start to get rid of that. And 3 times 8 is the same as 24. This brings us to what we call step 3. In step 3 now, we're going to use the hand method. For the hand method then, we take our hand, cover the variable x. Anything attached to my hand has got to go. So we're going to go ahead and divide by 2, copy, paste. We end up with a value of 1. 2 divided by 2 gives us that value of 1, so we have 1x equals 12. And at this point, since we have x all alone, we're going to go ahead and just turn that 1 into a box. Answer is x equals 12. Example 2. Same thing, we have this fraction, 5/8 equals 20 over d. Our job is to find the unknown value of d. It is proportionate because you have 2 fractions that are equal to each other. And because of that, we can do what's called take cross products. I start with the variable d. I multiply that diagonal first. That becomes 5 times d. That's the same as, and this time I'm going to skip this step and show you my work there, but 8 multiplied by 20. So you can go ahead and type that in your calculator, or you can use mental math. So we have 20 times 8, which is 160. At this point, our job is to find the variable d with the unknown value. This is where the hand method kicks in. I draw my vertical line at the equal sign. I cover my d with my hand. My job is to get rid of the 5. The operation that's there right now is multiplication. To get rid of that 5, we would divide by 5, copy, paste. So we end up having a 1D equals 160 divided by 5 is 32. The D value is all alone, so we're going to turn that 1 into a box, and my final answer is D equals 32. Why don't you go ahead and try, try 1. Just start by identifying the variable, multiplying that diagonal, get it set up. Just give you about 15 seconds or so, and then we're going to start to solve. You don't have to solve it all the way quite yet. Okay, so let's just get started here. So hopefully you've been able to identify that this is a proportion. You have a fraction equal fraction. The variable right now is x. I'm going to grab that variable, multiply that diagonal first, and it becomes x times 14. I like to put that coefficient first, or that number first, so I'm going to call it 14x. You might have on your paper right now x times 14. They mean the same thing. Commutative property allows us to flip. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply that other diagonal, which is 7 times 10, or 70. Hand method kicks in. I'm trying to solve for the variable x. Divide by 14, copy, paste. As I start to solve, 14 divided by 14 is 1. We get a 1x there. 70 divided by 14, some of you are probably putting that in your calculator right now, is 5. The value is 5. Make sure you have a 5 coming out of that 70 divided by 14. Box it in. Our final answer is x equals 5. Okay, so now we're going to move to the same idea of proportional reasoning, but our job in the next step is to make sure that we can take the word problem that we see and turn it into a proportion. So we're going to go ahead and read. As we read, we're going to identify numbers and labels. So I will have a rule with that. Every time we see a number, we will underline. Every time we see a label, we will circle. You'll see what I mean as we start to solve the first problem. As I read from left to right, it says you can buy 3. There's my number. I underline. 3 what? 3 t-shirts. Circle. 4, 24. There's my number. 24 what? Dollars. There's my label. Write and solve a proportion for the cost of buying 7. There's my number. 7 what? T-shirts. There's my label. So I should have identified 3 numbers and 2 labels. There's going to be an unknown value in here, and our job right now is to start setting up this thing called a t-table. So I'm going to set the t-table up over here because of space. The 2 labels that I've circled are t-shirts and dollars. So we're going to go ahead and set up a t-table for t-shirts and dollars. In that t-table, it says 3 t-shirts cost $24. So I'm going to put a 3 underneath the t-shirt column and a 24 underneath the dollar column. As I continue to read, looking for my next number is underlined right here, which is 7. It says 7 t-shirts. So I should be putting the 7 in the t-shirt column. How many dollars is my unknown? This really is going to become my coordinates that I'm looking for. 7 t-shirts is how many dollars? Because I have this proportional reasoning here with an equal sign in the middle, I'm going to do what's called take cross products. Once we have the proportion, we're able to take cross products. I grab the variable x. I'm going to multiply that diagonal first, just like we did above. That becomes 3 times x, or 3x. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply that other diagonal. So in your calculator right now, you should be multiplying 24 times 7, or 7 times 24, either order. And I'm coming up with 168 when I multiply that other diagonal. The hand method kicks in at this point. So we're going to take my hand, cover the variable x, lock it in. That's a stop sign there. My job is to get rid of the 3. That is a multiplication sign. The opposite of multiplying is division. So we divide by 3, copy, paste. As I start to solve, then 3 divided by 3 becomes 1. That's what we're looking for. X equals 168 divided by 3 is $56. Since x is all alone, we're going to turn this 1 into a box, and we've solved the problem. Now, because this is a real-world situation, I'd like you to write this as a coordinate to show understanding. Because sometimes we don't want to do things just to do them. We want to make sure we're understanding what's going on in this problem. So we have this hotel room analogy going on as if we were going to find slope. So we know that 7 t-shirts cost, we just solved, 7 t-shirts cost $56. So I'm going to write this as a coordinate, or as an example of a hotel room analogy. So we have 7 t-shirts cost $56. Done. We found the value of 7 t-shirts. We used a proportion. We took cross products, and we are done. Do try number 2. Last month, you purchased 2 ringtones for $6. Our job is to underline every time we see a number. So we see 2. What's the label? Ringtones. For $6. What's the number 6? What's the label? Dollars. Write and solve a proportion for this month. If you purchase 3, underline the number. What's the label? Ringtones. For D, dollars. So my job then is to go ahead and set up a t-table for that value. So it sounds like we have ringtones and we have dollars. How many ringtones do we have? 2 ringtones. 2 ringtones, $6, as I go back and read that first statement. The other information that we have is we have 3 ringtones, but we don't know how much 3 ringtones cost. Now I know you probably can mental math that, but our job today is to take cross products and use proportional reasoning. So because I have 2 fractions with an equal sign in the middle, we can take cross products. I'm going to grab the variable x like we did before. We're going to multiply that diagonal. That becomes 2 times x. Then I'm going to multiply that other diagonal, 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. Hand method kicks in right here. My job is to take my hand, cover the variable x. That is a multiplication operation. To solve it, I'm going to divide by 2, copy, paste. So I end up with 1x equals $9. Because the x is all alone, we are going to end up having x equals $9. Now I'd like us to write that as a coordinate to show understanding. So the thing we were looking for is this x value. We wanted to know how much 3 ringtones cost. 3 ringtones cost $9. So 3, 9 would be the coordinate. 3 ringtones, $9. So that's the idea of proportional reasoning. For our summary today, then, we're just going to say that the key is that we need to set up a t-table. We need to organize our thinking, and after we set up the table, then we take cross products. So everybody should be writing down that summary, set up a t-table, and then take cross products. And then I would like you to meet me on the next page to take a look at question number 7, I believe. So everybody's writing that summary, and we're going to do one more together before you move on to your homework. I'd like you to meet me on question number 7. Number 7 tends to be a problem for students, so we're going to go ahead and talk through this one of the idea of a ratio. And then we're going to move on to homework at this point. Number 7, it says the school team has 80 swimmers. You've learned in this process that our job then is to underline the number and circle the label. The ratio of 6th grade swimmers to all swimmers is 5 to 16. Clearly 2 numbers are showing up right here. So there's my 3 numbers. I'll have an 80 in the table, a 5 in the table, a 16 in the table, and an X in the table. It's just a matter of making sure we put the right thing in the right spot. So I'm going to go back and read that statement again in order from left to right. The ratio, I don't really need to know that, of 6th graders in order to all swimmers is 5 to 16. So as I read from left to right, it would be the 6th graders compared to all swimmers. So these have to be the 6th graders as I read that sentence in order. And then 16 would have to be all because it says 6th grade swimmers to all swimmers is. Write a proportion that gives the number of 6th grade swimmers. So in my table then, the things that I'm comparing are the 6th grade swimmers to all the swimmers. So we would think of that like a middle school setting. We have 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders all on the swim team. We want to know how many 6th graders are on the team compared to the entire team. So we have a relationship that for every 5 6th graders, we have 16 total swimmers. So what are we going to do with this 80 then? 80 swimmers. Are they all sixth graders or 80 all swimmers? Hopefully you're able to see that that means total swimmers, 80 total swimmers. They're not all sixth graders. So our value that we're looking for here is how many are sixth graders, and asking that question. How many on the team are sixth grade swimmers? So now that we have this proportional reasoning set up, we can go ahead and take cross products. We would grab the variable x. We'd multiply that diagonal then. We would have 16 times x equals. We'd go ahead and multiply that other diagonal. We have 5 times 80 is 400. The hand method kicks in. Our job is to get the variable x alone. So we're going to go ahead and take, we're going to get rid of the 16 by doing the opposite of multiplication, which is division. We divide by 16, copy, paste. We get x equals, so we would have 400 divide by 16. And you should have 25 students on the team are sixth graders. So our coordinate then over here in the table is that we have 25 students that are sixth graders compared to 80 students on the team. So we would say that these are the sixth graders and this is all the students on the team. So your job then is to finish the rest of this classwork activity, which is on page 25 and 26. Page 25 and 26 are due tomorrow.